Welcome back, everybody. This is Rodrigo Fonador with another episode of Asheville Real Estate News, episode 59, actually. Really excited to bring this episode out to you guys. We're talking about something that's been very popular over the last few years, but it hasn't always been like this. And we're gonna hopefully get into the history a little bit and see how something that wasn't always popular is now popular, and kind of the history and what the future of this topic could look like. So today I'm being joined by somebody who helped pioneer this, or was very instrumental in bringing this forward and helping this industry be what it is today. I'm being joined with Mary Love by the Love the Green team, and we are talking specifically about green building and green building here in Asheville. So if you will, help me welcome Mary Love to the show. Hey, Mary.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for joining us today.
I'm glad to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we're talking about green building today. Going to get into those details. It's fair to say it's kind of a popular thing to be a green builder or to buy or build a green built house right now. What did you say?
Absolutely, especially here in our area, in the city of Asheville, particularly, but in Western North Carolina.
It hasn't always been like that, has it?
No, it's not. It's taken a while.
Yeah, I know a lot of the houses that we look at are definitely not green built houses. Obviously they're a lot older, but like all trends, they start somewhere, don't they?
They do. And originally, Energy Star was our first certification program that we had,
right? Which
was 1999 was the first one that it started.
Okay.
And we actually live in the first Energy Star certified home in Buncombe County.
Oh, very cool, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's back up to the very beginning of that. And what is Asheville home for you, or how'd you end up here?
So East Tennessee is my original home, and I have family that's up here in Asheville, so we'd come up here and I always liked it, but I moved here from California.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's how'd you end up in Asheville from California?
So I'm an environmental scientist with a green building specialty, and I've always had a great interest in this, and my wife and I are both from the South, so we decided we wanted to move back to the South, but neither one of us wanted to go to Alabama or Tennessee.
Fair enough.
So we started talking about Asheville and looking into it, and then I noticed that Asheville had this little tiny nonprofit starting that was called the Western North Carolina Green Building Council. And I was like, that's pretty cool that they were doing something like that. And I called them and I said, hey, do you have any positions? And they were like, oh no, we just started. We're just like 10 people.
And when was that? When did those conversations start happening between?
Let's see, that was like 2003.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, how did you get your foot in the door, or what happened?
So we went ahead and moved here anyway. We just the typical Asheville story, moved on faith, and I just started volunteering everywhere and working with Land of Sky, and so they were writing up a grant, and I'm also a grant writer, so they were writing up a grant program about bringing in the certification program for green homes, and I became the project manager for that. And
wow.
Yeah.
So just started showing up, doing some good work, and then created a lot of opportunities for you. And so that was 2003, 2004.
Yes.
And do you still work with Land of Sky?
Well,
trick question. I know.
Yes. So there's two different Land of Skies here. There's the Land of Sky Regional Council, which is who I was working with at the time, and now we have Land of Sky Board of Realtors, which I work with now at the time too.
Right.
Yeah.
So what? Let's talk about the evolution of kind of what you're doing now versus what you were doing then, and how you've kind of seen the industry change or grow in the last, what is that?
It's almost 15 years now.
15 years, okay. And so let's start there. What can you give us a snapshot of what type of work you were doing then as the project manager?
Yes, so our first project was Prospect Terrace, and we did it with Mountain Housing Opportunities off of Klingman.
Okay, yeah.
And what was really interesting about that is we had to work with a lot of the building inspectors and explain to them what steel crawl spaces were. We had to convince the subs just on the framing to do advanced framing techniques. There's a lot of things that the general contractors and subcontractors did not understand. So that was a big part of my role, is to
educate
everybody.
And selling them on it, right? Because there's new information, so you have to convince them that it was legitimate, that it was real, etc.
Yes, and that's where my sales and marketing background came in. It's very helpful to have both of those.
No doubt.
Because when I first started talking to a lot of the builders, they were like, their opinion of green building was thinking corncob huts, not the advanced process that we were talking about. And basically what I did is I would go to the builders that were building quality homes in the first place,
right,
and said, well, essentially you're doing green building as the standards. We just need to tweak a little bit. And that made a lot of sense.
Very cool. Yeah, so you kind of got that momentum rolling, and obviously you've gone through a couple of different stages like most people do over 15 years. And what are you doing now, and kind of what's your focus as well?
So we are a real estate consulting firm.
Okay.
And with that, we're different than the typical real estate firms because we do a processing of, we will work, basically now I'm more of the consultant and I refer out the work.
Okay.
At one point I was home energy star rater, building professional advisor.
Really hands-on.
Really hands-on. And
now you do a little bit more coordinating?
Yes, I do not do the work anymore. I refer that out to my preferred vendors. And that includes everything from existing homes that want to be weatherized, as well as new construction. Like I work with a lot of builders right now and marketing their homes and getting them ready to, if they don't know how to do green, then I refer them to the Green Build Alliance and that process of how to go through to get their homes green.
What do you think is the biggest change that you've seen in green building over those 15 years that you've been part of it?
So,
if you can choose one, I don't know.
I would say that green building, the idea behind green building, it's science.
Right.
So the idea is that we set the bar high for what it is at the time of current building code.
Right.
And the biggest change now is that so many of the things that we were doing 15 years ago that seem to be
cutting
edge are actually building code. And that's always our goal. Like we've had the technology and the capability to make net zero homes all along, but it was just too much for the general contractors, the city planners, just for everybody to undertake. So we have to do a little bit at a time. So I think that's probably what I'm most grateful for, is that we've seen the building codes continue to improve along those 15 years.
Okay, so I got two questions. First one for you there is, you said a term, net zero homes. Can you educate anybody, including myself, on what that is if they're not familiar with what it is?
Okay, so net zero is simply that on your electric bill, on your metering, it's called net, and that you're not using any additional electricity from the net meter. So it's really, you can be making more, but you don't get paid back in North Carolina.
Right. Yeah. So net zero is just a home that breaks even on the meter as far as energy consumption goes?
Yes.
Okay. And what are some of the things that are happening now, just to follow up, as talking about what you guys were doing back in 2003, 2004, that was cutting edge, wasn't part of the building code. What are the things now that are cutting edge that aren't necessarily part of the building code that you're seeing?
So that's a really good question, because I'm not seeing as much of that here in our area, because we have a huge green building group of builders. Our Home Builders Association has really embraced it. So a lot of our builders are going above and beyond code, and they don't even really consider that green building. Part of that is, like example, spray foam insulation. advanced framing techniques that they go ahead and do anyway now.
Gotcha.
So there's some edges that I'd like to see us push more within the gray water systems, a little bit more with our entire water recycling process.
Okay.
But again, it's just like no longer are there dual flush toilets.
Right.
You know, they're energy water efficient now.
So right now, if I heard you correctly, you're saying that the area you would like to see the biggest push in forward is going to be in water consumption, storage, or whatnot?
Absolutely.
And where are we falling short in that right now?
I think with our gray water systems is where we're very lacking.
Okay.
And it really doesn't make sense that we use fresh water all the time to water our flowers, our outdoor landscape in general,
right.
Especially if somebody actually is watering a lawn.
Yeah. Different conversation for a different episode. Oh, well, let's go back to that. So what are people doing then to manage that water consumption a little bit more from what you're seeing? Like, what are the trends that are starting to come up?
Well, definitely the rain barrels.
Okay.
People are just doing them themselves, right. And so rain barrels very much. It's very easy now with the Energy Star has the Water Sense program for the faucets and the toilets, and I'm seeing a lot of people when I work with people that are getting ready to remodel a home, whether it's an investor or if it's a homeowner that's
right. working.
Those are the things that are very easy, they're cost efficient, and definitely buyers want those.
Okay, that's good to know. Great, yeah. I know you have a ton of experience, so I'm just kind of curious to know, what is it that you're working on now that you're particularly excited about, or is there something that you kind of have your hands on and you're just like, man, I'm really loving this project?
Yeah, that's my over at Olivet on the West Ridge. It's an agri-hood, and that's definitely a whole different time to talk about
Absolutely.
That. But yeah,
well, drop the teaser, because you introduced me to that term today, and I didn't know what it was, and we're going to circle back around on this anyways, but.
Yeah, so an agri-hood is a development that's designed around a working functional farm.
Okay.
And the one that is at Olivet currently right now is giving the produce and selling of produce to our local organic green restaurants.
Gotcha.
The plan is that will provide food as well as other opportunities for the homeowners to actually work on the farm or just to be able to buy the food at the development's farmer market.
Well, we're definitely very curious to hear more about that, so we're going to shelf that for another episode. Let's dive back into the green building. What do you think is the most common misconception that you hear people say when they're talking about green building, and thing where hey, you have to step in and be like, hey, just so you know, you might want to rephrase this, or this is actually a little incorrect, etc.
Well, I think that the term green building, because it's been around now for a while,
right.
It sort of gets mingled, and it means something different to everyone.
Okay.
And that's one of the things, I teach a class for realtors about how to talk to their clients so they can understand what they really want when it's green building.
Okay.
And because some of the buyers, what they really want is energy efficiency. And that's the only thing that they're concerned about. That's the most important thing to them. So that is a feature of green building. Other buyers are very concerned about indoor air quality.
Yeah.
So that's a feature. So most people are familiar with one of the features of green building, and that's what they're really focusing on. So they have to be educated about all of the other benefits that's involved in the certification process of a green home.
Is there a list of the specific features that make up a green built house, or how do you define a green built house?
Yes, so Greenbelt Alliance actually has on their website the Greenbelt NC certification program and the points and the factors all that makes a home certified green.
Gotcha. And you said you live in a green built house now, right?
This is the way.
Back in the day, it was a green built.
Back in the day, it was. Now it would not.
It would not.
It would not.
Right.
It's very interesting. We've done a lot of upgrades over the years that we've lived there, but it would not qualify.
Is it grandfathered in then, or?
It is grandfathered in.
Okay.
And it is, and it's grandfathered in way back to when it was Progress Energy that gave a discount for an Energy Star certified home.
Okay.
And we're still grandfathered in on that.
Well, that works out well.
Yeah, it's $4, and we took that $4 and donated it over to North Carolina Green Power.
Okay. So. And what? You're throwing out all these terms I'm unfamiliar with. What's Carolina Green Power?
North Carolina Green Power is a nonprofit that was designed to promote green efficiency power sources.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Well, obviously you can tell from the conversation we had, green building is not something I'm super aware of. What do you say to somebody who's like in my shoes or anybody who's tuning in as far as what's a good way to find out more, get plugged in, and kind of just understand what it is and get educated?
There's two things. One is we post a lot on our website and on our Facebook page, lovethegreen.org. Try to really, and we're doing a whole new series on the blog about that for like just somebody that really doesn't know what it is. So it's going to be an educational series that we're going to do. And then the other is the Green Build Alliance has a lot of classes, information on their website, great videos. It's an excellent resource.
Okay. Great, great. And if somebody wants to get connected with you directly, what's the best way for them to do that?
Email me, Mary, at lovethegreen.org.
Okay.
Or text me, 828-279-6723.
Yeah, we'll include both of those obviously in the show notes. So what is when you're, and you know, just as we're wrapping up, I know that I talk to people sometimes who are very, skeptical of green building and whatnot. What do you say to that segment of the population? They're like, it doesn't make a big difference. Like, what's the point? It's too much work, etc.
That's easy. I just tell them about how much money they're going to save, and then they're on board.
So you really do think it's comes down to dollars and cents?
Always.
What's the average savings, or how do you calculate that then?
Basically, that's on energy efficiency components. That's what most people make sense, and especially now with water, as it becomes more of an issue and how much the cost of that, it'll be a water savings as well.
Very cool. All right, Mary, well, thanks so much for joining us today. And we're going to have you back to talk about, would you say agro communities, right?
Agro-hoods.
Agro-hoods.
Yes.
Agro-hoods. That's a new word for me. Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, you guys, there you have it. If you're interested in green building, if you had questions, this episode is a great starting point. I am very, no pun intended, green when it comes to understanding green building, not very well versed in that subject yet. So it was a real pleasure to have Mary on the show. Definitely look forward to get a little bit more information with the new vlog series that you guys are putting out. So definitely we're going to stay tuned to that, and let us know what you all think. Are you big green build proponents or not? Let us know in the comments, and hope to connect with everybody at our next meetup, September 10th at Habitat Brewing. Thanks guys, take care.